Welcome to Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn of thejessicaflynn.com, and our show is on a mission to unleash local wisdom for widespread impact. We are committed to inspiring positive change and empowerment in our small community and beyond. And I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, who has a long history in the housing and luxury travel space. And I am going to take a couple of minutes to introduce him because it will really lay the groundwork for the conversation we're going to have today. So our guest had had a career in hospitality and luxury corporate travel, which led him down a path toward full-scale development, becoming a community builder, and now attainable housing advocate and solution finder. Thomas Vincent is a visionary entrepreneur with a diverse and impactful career. He's created successful ventures such as Euroland, Vincent Travel and Tours, Worldwide Jamaica, Worldwide Villa Vacations, Executive Travel Apartments, setting new standards for corporate housing around the globe, and began his first social impact project in 1990, Project Hope, Homes for People Everywhere with the City of Toronto. If you're local to Collingwood, you may know Thomas as the visionary developer behind Balmoral Village, an adult lifestyle and age-in-place community that broke ground in 2016. Thomas is a community leader and has founded the Collingwood Syrian Foundation, raising $100,000 for 8 families to settle in our region. He's helped form CASE, a committee to plan and build a 600-plus seat Center for the Arts. He's created an attainable housing development team for the South Georgian Bay region and produced a comprehensive roadmap for attainable housing for municipalities that we will dive into in this episode. He's also founded Adult Lifestyle Communities, an on-the-go resource for active adults 55 plus who are planning a future retirement residence. Now, as the president of Attimo Homes, Thomas is pioneering attainable housing solutions across our region. Attimo Homes offers attainable, tiny, modular village and garden suite solutions with full project management support, working with the most reputable modular manufacturers in Canada. So join us as we delve into Thomas's current work in attainable housing, his contributions to creating accessible housing solutions for the community, and his vision for sustainable communities in the future. I wanted to spend the time in this episode, Thomas, to go through your bio and your CV because I think it really does lay the groundwork for what we're going to talk about here today. So thank you for coming and welcome.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I'm tired listening to all of it. I didn't realize. No, anyhow.
Yeah.
It's been an exciting career.
Yes, it has been. And I think our Collingwood community is really, really fortunate to have your vision and your passion here. So to kick it off, at this stage in your career, what made you really get passionate and focus on attainable housing?
Well, actually, about 5 years ago, Martin Ridlow, who was the economic director here in Collingwood, asked me to go to a conference and just to see what I thought was happening. And it was on attainable housing. It was in Wasaga Beach. And I guess I really didn't understand that there is a crisis in attainable housing, affordable housing and attainable housing. And I walked out of there, and one of the key things that was said was that we were 2,500 positions short, employment positions short in the South Georgian Bay region.
Wow, and that was how many years ago?
That was 5 years ago,
okay.
And now it's probably double. And 90% of the respondents to any surveys talked about the housing being a major decision, that they could not actually work in the area because it was not affordable and quality housing for them. So, I was shocked. In England, of course, you would say I was gobsmacked. But so it was a challenge, and so I set about trying to figure out how we could, how could we build attainable housing, for young people, not necessarily for young people, but mostly for young people coming into the region, or employee housing and that type of thing. So there's again housing for the homeless, there's housing for employees. And then there's housing on a normalized basis for people that are looking for something that they can afford.
So let's get into that definition a little bit, and it can be controversial of what is Attimo's and your definition of attainable housing?
Yes, well, I'd like to make it very simple, Jessica, is that basically We want to have rental housing and housing that you can purchase that is below market rents or below market established costs for housing. So it's that simple. Unfortunately, there's no real definition of what attainable is. I mean, the province doesn't have that. But anyhow, but we're always looking for housing that people can live in and afford it. And that's really what's happening. And as you know, the housing in Collingwood and the region has increased substantially, the prices over the past number of years. So it's been very difficult for younger people.
Absolutely. And in the second half of the segment, we'll go kind of circle back and get into more of these pockets of different types of folks who need these alternative housing solutions. But before we get there, can you tell us a little bit more about Attimo? Who is Attimo? Who's the team that's helping bring this mission about in our region?
Well, over 2 years ago, I met with a number of groups looking at the best resources that we could put together for attainable housing and to build villages. And we put together a local group, engineering group called Greenland, a very professional group, and they're also involved a lot in environmental, taking a look at how can they make things greener, you know, which is, so they're great. They're one of they're our engineering partner, Popovich Architects. Fabulous architects. Not only are they a normal architectural firm for commercial and for residential, but one of their staff members, Stan Zippin, that we utilize all the time, Stan spent over 10 years in the Middle East developing attainable housing villages for workforces. And nobody in North America has that experience. And then we have our planners and our business and our consulting people and are looking at financing, et cetera. So I put together the team. We've all been working on a pro bono basis for the past over 2 years, as I mentioned, and we have developed solutions, again, for attainable housing using modular manufacturing concepts.
And can you just quickly define modular for our viewers at home?
Well, I think that the easiest way to define it would be prefab, in that the unit is built and manufactured in-house. The beauty of that is that we don't have the weather constraints and we can manufacture year-round. So I have met with 11 different manufacturers across the country, and most of them are in Ontario. And basically we can have, they're all CSA approved, and we also have, they all meet the Ontario Building Code requirements. And they build the product in-house, and then we bring it to the site and assemble it. And we'll get into
Nothing's
that
on
later.
wheels, nothing is not permanent. These are permanent structures built in an environment that's protected, that also is that factory model, so it's much quicker, I understand.
It's as I always say, faster, quicker, better, and more economical in the long run. So then the other thing is we can actually assemble something on, we'll get into this in regard to the garden suites, but we can assemble it within 4 to 8 hours after we bring that.
It's exciting.
So that, you know, again, if you take a look at when you're building something in a neighborhood and the commotion and the noise factor and et cetera, you know, we don't have any of that, and we can actually build it in and have it set very, very quickly.
Much happier neighbors, which is maybe going to help with some of the NIMBYism that our community has been expressing, which is not in my backyard. If we can minimize the disruption and provide quality, beautiful homes to those who we need to come up and share this community with us, and hopefully we can change that into a NIMBYism. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Another thing that I love about following your journey and working with Attimo is that I think you're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. So talking back about Popovich, they've seen things done around the world. You've seen things done in Canada. So where we don't have to reinvent the wheel, let's see what's been successful and capitalize on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's that simple. You're right about not reinventing the wheel. We just take the best parts of all the manufacturing process in the companies we've seen, we put them together, and we can understand when we're building something, when we're ordering something for anyone, is that we can decide what is the best, who's the best manufacturer to utilize, okay, based on their time frames of building something and based on their specialty.
Right. And one of the accomplishments that Attimo has produced in its early days, in these pro bono days, is you've produced a comprehensive roadmap for municipalities. So before we go to break, can you give us a very high level of what's included in that roadmap? Maybe why you created it, and then what is in there to help municipalities?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're bang on. We created it to help municipalities understand what they can build. And so in the toolkit that we put together, we have single homes, we have what we call parkland, social villages to house the homeless. We've been working with the Canadian Mental Health Association and My Friend's House here in Collingwood, and we have developed product for them. We've also developed workforce housing in a modular concept, more of a dormitory style, but much more efficient and much better than staying in university dorm by any stretch of the imagination. And we have developed a fourplex and a duplex, a fourplex, and eightplex concept also. So we're able to take all of these types of products and combine them into a village, which we've created for a number of municipalities, and we're working on right now. That's
very exciting. And sometimes we need to show what's possible and make it tangible. And do you find that that's been helpful with municipalities? Has there been some progress since they've had access to a tool like yours?
A perfect example would be Wasaga Beach. I sat down with the CAO and his team. We showed him the toolkit, and we showed him all the different types of products that we could manufacture and build for them. And they were so excited, they gave us their inventory of their lands that are available in Wasaga, and we have actually produced some site plans for them to consider. And they are very progressive in Wasaga, and they're moving along quite quickly. So you can see how this toolkit actually works within the municipalities and gets them to, they can visualize it and they can now understand what they can develop in their communities.
Yes, and it's really just starting the conversation. Yes, we know that this might not work exactly for this particular piece, but look what's possible. And with the modular units, it's pretty cool to see. It's kind of like Lego blocks of how they can be customized to fit any particular site, any particular housing need, whether it's workforce, attainable, social response. So what we're going to do after the break is dive into these different types of villages that Attimo is working with municipalities, bringing on the planners, the engineers, to really bring these solutions forward when we need them, which is now, which was yesterday, but we're here making progress. So stay tuned to Empowered with Jessica Flynn, where we will continue our conversation with Thomas Vincent from Attimo Homes. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn, and today we're having a conversation with Thomas Vincent from Attimo Homes, and we are going to dive into one of the many products that you offer. So before the break, we were talking about Attimo Villages. So these are solutions to really great problems. We have workforce housing, a lack of, we have social response villages, we have attainable housing villages. We also, at Attimo, have garden suites. So who is a garden suite for? Who needs a garden suite?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Jessica, in regard to garden suites, it's something that somebody would like, to help the community solve the rental housing problem.
Okay.
And
A property owner already.
a property owner. So they have their lot, and then it's a case of identifying the lot, the size of it, taking a look at the setbacks and the coverage, and going through all the planning process. But it's getting into the weeds. But coming up with something that they can actually rent, and then they can receive an income, obviously, by having that rental unit on their lot. And as we mentioned earlier on in the show, we have it manufactured, we bring it in by crane, we drop it, by truck obviously, crane, and then we drop it in, and we hook everything up within 24 hours to 48 hours, and we can have it up and running.
Okay.
But so I look at it as another method to help solve the housing crisis we're in by providing more rental accommodation. In Collingwood, as an example, I think Collingwood has looked at probably about 900 homes that are smaller wartime housing on larger lots that could have an attainable housing unit, garden suite dropped in.
Okay.
So there's a lot of opportunity out there to help solve the rental crisis we have, because we have a very high high occupancy rate, low vacancy rate here in Collingwood, and the rental stock has deteriorated dramatically.
Right.
So we need new housing, we need good quality housing, and we need it at a very, very good price on a rental basis for younger people.
And when we think of the housing crisis, many of us go to affordability, but there is also a stock crisis where we have people who have great careers or have the income to rent at market, but there isn't stock for those folks to come either. Yeah.
I mean, true statement. I mean, they're just the housing is not available in Collingwood.
Right. And so these may be property owners or homeowners who want to be a part of it. It takes a village to raise a village. I really believe that. So coming forward as part of that team. But also, some property owners may have personal reasons for putting in a garden suite. Can you speak to what those situations may look like or feel like?
Yes, well, if you take a look at the garden suites, and well, first of all, you could have it on a rental basis. Secondly, you may have an ailing relative or someone in the family, obviously, that needs accommodation, but you can accommodate them in your own home due to stairs or et cetera, mobility issues. So they could have a garden suite. You could actually have a garden suite and then rent out your home.
Right.
Or you could actually move into a garden suite and give your house to your children and stay again in the same lot, in the same neighborhood.
And you have a history and a passion of aging in place as well. That was part of the inspiration behind Balmoral Village. It's a lot of the work that you do with your community, adult lifestyle communities. So putting in a garden suite, it's just a different way of thinking how we retire, right? And how we take care of each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about the garden suites that are available these days. So they're coming in, they're built from modular manufacturers that have all of these approvals. They're not lesser than, oftentimes they are more energy efficient, they are quite beautiful. We have a heritage district here in Collingwood, so they can, I imagine, fit with whatever designations or requirements are needed. So can you demystify garden suites a little bit, what we thought they were and what they actually are?
That's a long conversation, but I'll put it this way: is first of all, with all the manufacturers we have for garden suites, we have a plethora of designs that, whether it's contemporary, whether it's traditional designs, how you design your roof, your gables, the cladding, etc. And basically, we sit down, with each customer, and we go through that process and identify what their desires are, what their needs are, etc., and we put it all together. So we can accommodate sizes. The minimum size that we offer is 320 square feet. And most people would say, wow, my goodness, 320 square feet, that just seems so small. It's unbelievable how efficient, we can build a 320 square foot unit. If it's a one bedroom unit, separate bedroom, living and dining area, fully equipped kitchen, and a three-piece bathroom.
Yeah. And these aren't Murphy beds. You have a separate bedroom.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can actually use Murphy beds in certain of the suites we have, which make it a little bit larger, obviously, and then pulling down the bed at night. But literally with all the different designs we have, it really, we have something for everybody. And then when you get into the sizes, as I said, we start at 320 square feet, and then we go up to 460, 540, 650, and then 800 plus. So we have 1 and 2 bedroom designs. We have designs where we have the living space up, and then we have the parking space below. So that works the parking and makes it more efficient. So it's not extra on top of the lot, it's really underneath where you're living. So there's just tremendous designs that we can satisfy everybody's need if they're interested in this concept.
What have been the hesitations, do you think, in the past for people committing to going down the road of installing a garden suite on their property?
I think that it's mostly an educational issue. I think that people don't understand how easy this is. Now, as you know, in the past, people have looked at bunky suites and suites that don't have kitchens, etc., for their cottages now. So I think that, this is just an extra step, a unique product, that we can bring in, and it works.
And so, I mean, a resident could go directly to a manufacturer, but what is Attimo doing differently that helps bridge that maybe education gap or discomfort with a big construction project?
Well, I guess there's a number of things. I mean, first of all, we identified the needs of the individual and the type of design, as I've mentioned, and then we know the specific manufacturer to go to, rather than somebody saying, I like the concept and we're going to go to a number of different manufacturers. And it's a complicated process. There's no two ways about it. So we demystify, to utilize your term, that process and help make it as simple as possible to go along. And the other thing is that, from a financing standpoint, which is very critical. I mean, people can buy a unit and use, for cash, and we can finance it through the banks. But we've also set up a program with the Home Equity Bank, which is tremendous because people actually don't take any money out of their pocket. They take the equity in their home, and basically it's a mortgage concept, but they don't pay on a monthly basis until your house is sold. So it's a very unique way of actually creating additional income for you on a rental basis on a property and not paying any money for it.
Okay, so it's really kind of this all-encompassing support. If you're going to make a decision to explore garden suites, you get project management, you're working kind of with Attimo, and Attimo will take care of all of the details, working with the town, working with the engineers. So there's less need for the maybe heightened anxiety or worry around doing it yourself.
Absolutely. I think that within 15 or 20 minutes of talking with anyone with our team, you could understand that, hey, this is, if you would like the additional income, or you would like to help solve the rental crisis that we have, and not only in Collingwood, by the way, this is in every small town in Ontario.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
I mean, it's overwhelming to a certain degree, but it's like everything else. It's like you eat an elephant, one mouthful at a time.
Yeah.
We just, we'll work with anybody, to put this.
Well, and what I didn't mention, Tom, is that you and I actually met back in 2018 when I started a company called Funky Bunkies, and you've had the stamina to keep going with the working with municipalities, helping them, and kind of being a part of the solution of some bylaws need to change, some ways that we're thinking about things need to change, and now we're in a position where we can start deploying more of these units, building these villages. So I want to thank you for doing all of this and continuing with it, and if we can now come together as a community to help solve this problem together, that's the way we need to go forward. So one of the final questions I'll ask is quite a large one, and it's kind of circling back to our earlier conversation. So it's one thing, and you've done the work and figured out how we might be able to build or finance affordably. How do we keep this new housing that we're hoping to deploy very soon affordable as the market continues to fluctuate?
Well, I think that is a two-pronged question, because one is on a rental basis and one is on an ownership basis. On a rental basis and ownership, remember that attainable housing, you don't have to pay development charges. And there are rules for that, and you have to keep the rents at a certain level. So I think that, again, the way that we're putting the package together, with the various municipalities, is that there will be agreements that the rents are going to be at a certain level. All right? And again, the definition of attainable is really an affordable product in the marketplace. Now, if I move over to an ownership basis, that's a situation that I think that we've solved, because the main problem with housing prices is speculation. And we take the speculation out by virtue of saying is that there's any appreciation in the property that you own, when you sell it, 80% of that will go back into the village concept, okay, if you are part of a village, on an ownership basis, so that you can keep 20%. And that just basically pulls the fuse on the speculation. And we need that to keep the housing prices lower. That's
Right. So there are, what I keep hearing, which is really hopeful, is that there are solutions to all of these problems. So we need to keep talking about them. We need to not be tripped up over each other's definitions, but make sure we're on the same playing field. We understand the problem thoroughly, so that then we can execute on solutions.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but the question is, I know that all the solutions are out there.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of identifying what the situation you're dealing with and then finding the answer. And as we mentioned earlier on, we're not recreating the wheel. We know that the solutions are out there. I think that we've done a great job at pulling it together in regard to all of the things that you need to assess when you're building a garden suite, et cetera. So, and again, dealing with 11 different manufacturers across the country, we learn from each one of those and bring that into our realm and make it better for the individual that's looking for it.
Right. And one thing that we haven't touched on, but we've talked a lot about garden suites. So coming soon to Collingwood will be a model of one of these units that folks can come and tour and see what it looks and feels like. And we're really excited to be able to share that with our audience as well. There is so much to talk about on the topic of attainable, tiny, and modular home solutions. So you can go to attimohomes.com to learn more about what Thomas and his team is up to in the pursuit of building more sustainable and holistic communities. Join us next time on Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn, and I look forward to our next conversation.